I grew up on the mean streets of University City in Kenner.
Okay, in Kenner, bruh.
Yeah. So the oldest memory that I have is, I think around 72, maybe standing on that platform where the foundation where they built the house. But anyway, that's where I grew up, and I left University City in Kenner about when I was 15 years old. Moved in with my mother. She was already living in Fat City.
Okay.
Which Fat City back in the 80s was a you was probably there.
Oh yeah.
So and I lived right down the street on Hesmer Avenue. So for me to get to 17th Street was literally fucking 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Walk. Now the walks to the bar were always nice and clean. The walks back got interesting. I woke up in a few alleys, along the way, 10 o'clock in the fucking next morning. And
was that because of city planning or the condition of your mind on the way back from the bar?
yeah. Now it's more for city because of city planning. But,
sure.
But yeah, no. But that was the stomping ground where I really, in Kenner when I was a kid, I started playing guitar, when I was 8. My dad had one. He was a musician.
Okay.
So he had a cover band back in the 80s and late 70s. And, he was pretty popular for what he did. And his drummer was Chris Brown,
okay,
the owner of Soundcheck Music.
Okay.
So when I was really young, I was able to go with him to rehearsals and just see it all,
Okay. And what is really young?
Well, he would be bringing me over there around 10 years old,
Okay.
So I would fucking dabble with a guitar, and just interested in it and shit when I was 8, But when I hit 11 years old or so, 12, man, that's when I really started to fucking go, oh, I can do this, and I really started to get interested in it. So he would bring me to rehearsals, man, and I'd see the whole thing, man. The fucking guys setting up, the banter, the fucking music, man. Just enthralled with it all, man. Just wow,
Yeah.
Look at this. I got to be a part of it. It's in the blood. So, with watching that and growing up where I grew, because that's where my dad played, in Fat City in the early 80s was, it's fucking nothing but bars.
I was surprised to find out because I was running Fat City a little later on in life, and I was surprised to find out that it was a destination for my dad's era before us.
Right.
And it never dawned on me. I thought it was some playground that was onto my own generation, because it seemed like it was tailor-made for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And when we got there, it was a few years later. His crowd kind of went away, the older crowd, and it became the hooligans.
Yeah.
So it was me and Kirk's turn, and a lot of other motherfuckers. And we all went there. Phil, fucking, we all fucking partied there. Every band in the city, fucking. So that street was, and that part of town was a big, that's where we all played, It's where we all met each other. It's where I played my first show.
Yeah.
Was a cover band at the time, but that's where the other 2 members of Exhorder came from, Andy and David, when we first started Exhorder. So, we were out there, and so I was always around it. And Chris Brown had Soundcheck, my dad's drummer. He had Soundcheck Music right there in Fat City too. So, I mean, when I'd wake up with a fucking hangover, the first thing I would do is go walk down and hang out in the music store all day and fucking play guitars and just dick around. And then go home to get a shower, go back to the fucking bar and go play.
Part 2.
Yeah.
What was, how was it guitar so early for you? Your father?
Yeah, the problem was he brought one home from one of his buddies that was playing guitar, and he was a singer, So he had a couple of guitars, and he brought one home, and just kind of had it there for when his buddy would come over and they would rehearse. So he'd leave that motherfucker sitting on the stand, and I'd like, fuck, man, look at this thing, and I'd go, nobody's looking, and I'm fucking with it, So. But before guitar, man, I think I was going to play piano, keyboards and shit, And, I was listening to, I was hearing in the background, and, at 8, I don't have a desired fucking form of music just yet.
That is way early in life to be picking up an adult-sized instrument,
Right, right. And if I did have a preference, who knows what the fuck it was, I don't remember. So, but at the, at the earliest ages, man, I mean, the first thing I heard that made me want to fucking, play the guitar was, like, really play it, was Billy Gibbons, I heard my daddy came home with the Fandango album, because they had to learn a song off of it for his cover band.
Oh, okay.
Been Tush, one of the popular ones off of that record. So he put that motherfucker on, and I was like, wait a minute, it can be like that, And then it just got worse and worse. Ted Nugent, fucking Van Halen, 78, So I was fortunate, man, it was almost like, something outside of, because like I said, I was going for the keyboards, It was almost like something on the outside of it was going, nah, you need to play guitar, man, So that's kind of, the beginnings of it, and I just fucking, I did lessons and shit for a little while. Not long. I took a little jazz guitar, man, when I was young, and did a little bit of that, and learned some theory and shit. And then, man, once, I started getting more and more into metal and rock and roll and shit, fuck lessons.
What was your father's cover band? Were they sticking to any genre, or was it just all over the map?
It was whatever was popular that day. It was a total
so like
top 40 thing.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of like what you see today. A lot of the cover bands, they playing the songs of today, and now that so much time's gone by, they're playing the songs of old for the for people that are coming in these clubs that are fucking 55 and 60 years old. Sure, they could play songs from their era too. Yeah. He did that, he played some 50s and 60s and shit, but for the most part it was, it was a total money gig, There was no original music or nothing like that.
Yeah, cover band.
Look, my old man could sing his ass off. At the time, man, he was, he had one of the hottest, cover bands in the city. And he made plenty of money, man. And he played all them old clubs, man, that we used to, go stomping in and shit afterwards,
Y'all were close? When you were coming up?
Yeah. When we were growing up, I mean, he took off. Look, my story is no different, really. A lot of motherfuckers, him and my mom didn't get along at some point, and I think right around when I was 14-ish, he split. But he was always around, He just shacked up with another lady. So, and he's been with her since. So, So, but yeah, it's always been cool, and I would go, stay with him for a little while, and that's why I got to move to, Hesmer Street with my mother, So, but yeah, that was cool, and at some point I branched out, because of course he didn't like the shit I was playing.
Well, no, I think nobody is the keeper of previous generations and vice versa. They'll never be satisfied with what we listen to, and at least we can appreciate where we came from, which is their era of music, Let me ask you, so y'all were already close, and I guess it happened, you were old enough that the split didn't really affect you all too negatively. Like, you were old enough to understand why and what was going on. Did you feel like playing music kind of strengthened the bond, or reassured you that the bond was still there? Did it play another role in the background, I guess?
Some motherfuckers crack up over it. The parents split up and fucking, they turn into fucking miserable old folk, or so whatever the fuck. But to be honest, man, I mean, I'm a fan of the truth, so I'm gonna tell it how it is. I was too fucked up. I was a bad kid, man. I really was. I was a horrible fucking kid to raise. I had all the advantages. Look, I wasn't spoon fed, but I mean, I'll tell you this: I was the fucking kid in the neighborhood with the swing set, the swimming pool, and all of the toys and shit. Yeah. And everybody else in the neighborhood hated my fucking ass for it, and they whipped my ass. So that's where I learned how to fight. These motherfuckers come whip my ass just because I had the cool shit on the block, and I guess they were jealous of it and shit. Sure. So anyway, long story short, most motherfuckers will crack up over that shit, I was just a bad kid, man. It didn't bother me at all, because I was too wrapped up in my own shit. I was partying, man. I was playing guitar. I was fucking, running the streets, man, in and out of, little bands here at their neighborhood jams and shit. Getting ass, I was just doing the normal shit, and to be honest, I really didn't give a fuck. I should have, But, you know, in hindsight, but like I said, I was just a bad kid. And I was a bad kid all the way up until I was about 22.
Yeah, but you know what, though? I mean, it kind of sounds like you grew up quick because you were young, keeping the company of older people, you know, your dad's bands and friends and things like that. So you were kind of young, hanging around with older people. So between that and divorce, you probably grew up really quick.
Yeah, I did, and I was bad in school, man. I mean, I had a fucking full, not this, but I had a full beard when I was like 14.
Oh.
So man, I'd go to fucking school. They would literally send me home because I didn't shave, you know. And my old man got my ass one time. They sent me home from school. They said, "Don't come back here till you fucking shave." I went home. I'm in the mirror shaving. He gets home. He's pissed because, "What are you doing fucking shaving? It's just going to get worse." I was like, "They sent me home, motherfucker. I can't go back unless I do this." He's like, "Well, let me show you how to do it."
Yeah. Wow. You know? Yeah, that's growing up quick, Vinny.
That's what I'm saying. You know, and you're right. I saw, you know, the interactions between, you know, how the older fellas treat. Because to be honest, dude, I really didn't hang. I didn't hang a lot with people of my age. You know? I had maybe 2 or 3 fucking close friends that I could hang my hat on. And everybody else in the neighborhood I was fucking fighting with, you know, at some point. So, yeah, I grew up a little too quick, you know, and it made me quit school early, man. You know, it turned me into a hustler, you know, street guy, you know. And, you know, so I squandered all of those great opportunities that I had before me because really all I was concerned with was playing my goddamn guitar.
Yeah.
And listening to as much fucking hardcore and heavy metal as I could get my hands on.
That was it for you, huh?
Yeah, dude. You know, that was life, man. I mean, you know, it's kind of cliche now that people, because if you interview anybody that's, you know, they'll tell you the same thing. Dude, I lived, eat, and slept it. You know, we slept in the practice rooms. You know, we lived on fucking ramen noodles and, you know. It's what we were. I mean, fuck. Jay Saravalo, when he joined the band, that motherfucker gave up a city job at Kenner, man. It's like somebody called in a favor for him.
Yeah.
Because those jobs didn't grow on trees back then, you know. It was fucking mid-'80s, late 80s. And he told his girlfriend, "Fuck you, get out. I don't want to see you for 6 months." Quitting that job. He locked himself in his room with a bunch of fucking blow and a fucking fifth of Chevys and just didn't come out until he could play the songs well enough to be able to take a stage. So we were all sold out to the process, man, you know, especially me.
That's pretty hardcore. That's like a monk status right there.
Yeah, that's the thing. He gave up, you know, we gave up everything, man. Our lives, you know, and mine, you know, probably would have been a lot fucking different if I'd have just fucking paid attention. Maybe I should have picked the piano. Because that's not very prominent.
Well, you know, I was going to ask, I mean, we went through the why guitar part, but at what point in your life did the transition occur where you went from, because in the beginning you were surrounded by top 40 and now all of a sudden you're surrounded by hardcore metal. Like where did that transition occur?
I'll be honest, man.
What ushered it?
I always knew when I was younger, you know, and coming up in, you know, those years, I wasn't hearing on the radio or through other avenues of, you know, highways that led to my brain, you know, who I was hanging with. I wasn't getting the heavy stuff. And I knew there was more there.
You wasn't understanding it, or you weren't hearing what was out there?
I wasn't hearing the heavy stuff. I wasn't hearing the Venoms and the, you know, a couple of years, like, you know, I want to say maybe like the heaviest shit up till like 1983 that I had heard and everybody in my neighborhood was listening to was Merciful Fate. You know, we got a hold of that record, you know, and was fucking, you know, the first one and everybody was tripping on that motherfucker, and then it got worse from there. I don't know how it could get worse from there, but it did.
And so, what do you call in heavier shit? Is it thrash, like the intensity?
I remember, like the intensity, man. Like, you know, you would hear rock bands like, dude, like here's a good example. I mean, fucking the '70s. I'm in the back seat of the car, you know, the Impala. As a kid playing around and they're driving and fucking Wayward Son comes on the fucking radio in 1976. I'm hearing that and I'm going, even at that young age, I'm going, that's a song, you know?
Yeah. Queen,
come on the motherfucker, you know, Bohemian Rhapsody, they play that song, you know, in the 70s. And I'd be like, nah, that's getting a little closer to what, and then they fucking play Elton John, and I'm like, that's not it, you know?
Yeah.
You know, so I always knew that, and I kept saying to myself as I grew up, like, if I don't hear it happening, I'm going to try and create it. But then, you know, like I said, man, people in the neighborhood started coming around with records, man. I mean, I remember standing in front of my buddy's stereo, man, with the fucking record spinning to fucking Kill 'Em All, man, when it first came out, first day. And I'm standing there just with my fucking jaw to the ground. I'm like, okay, it's like that, you know? Okay, I knew this existed. And I knew we could go to places and do, you know, and get extreme. I just didn't know that, like, I didn't realize how extreme it was, you know. All the imagery, the Satanism, the fucking, a lot of motherfuckers in my neighborhood was like, hey, fuck all of this. You got me at Satan, man. Fuck all of that. You know?
I wouldn't expect you to feel like you had met your match, because it sounds like you were trying to up the ante because you didn't know where the ledge was up until that point.
Yeah. I struggled for a couple of years. You know, we had the Van Halens and Iron Maiden and shit, but I'm like, where is the, because it wasn't like today, man. You know, you would have to walk. There was no import section at Warehouse Records and Tapes in the 70s and 80s. There wasn't. So you know, there was no opportunity to just go buy a Merciful Fate album right out the bin and go, oh, this looks fucking like it could be heavy. You know, it just didn't exist. So when you heard music, man, you heard it from a older dude that had it down the street.
Somebody else's collection.
Yeah, exactly. So, and he would only let a few motherfuckers hear it because it'd be hollering a bunch of Satan shit on the fucking people getting murdered in the music, you know?
Yeah.
So, but I always knew that you know, if I didn't hear it, I was going to push it. And even when I did hear that, okay, this is acceptable, and I liked it, you know, and I liked what I was hearing, I still wanted to up it, you know?
Acceptable.
Yeah. You know, acceptable to the degree of
it still makes it out on a record to your house.
Well, no, I'm an extreme guy. I push the envelope no matter what the fuck we're doing. If we're gonna sit here and drink bourbon, like if we're here longer than an hour, you're not gonna make it home. If that's the kind you want to do these, we're gonna do a couple of these. We're gonna, you know, everything is extreme. If I'm into something, dude, I'm into it all the fucking way, and it's just how I am. And I'm not just picking and choosing like, oh, I'm only like that with music. It's with everything. So yeah, I knew I was going to push it, you know, but I didn't really realize that I could write fucking songs until I was about 16, you know.
Really? And by that point, you were already in a band of your own.
I was in a band called. Thank you, sir. That's my attorney. He's getting me some more bourbon. I was in a band. It was funny because I was loitering in a bar room in Fat City, probably 16, wasn't supposed to be there. And Andy Villafara, first bass player for Exhorder, comes waltzing across the bar, playing his forearm, okay, like an air bass. Thank you, sir. And I'm like, look at this fucking guy, man. This guy, he's weirding me out, man. You know, he's in my face, and he's like, the music's loud as fuck. And he goes, hey, man, my name's Andy. And he puts his hand, I say, hey, man, Vince. You know, he's like, I'm playing a fucking band. We're playing at the Showboat around the fucking corner. Why don't you come check it out fucking tomorrow night? I'm like, cool. So he's just drumming up fucking business, you know. So I took a fucking hike down there, watched him and shit. That cover band was, they were playing Raven covers, fucking Metallica covers, all kind of heavy shit, man. They were playing all kind of shit. And I was like, okay, well, this is not like the cover band down the street I was just saw last week that was playing, you know, Rat and shit, and you know, because I never did like it, never did like the hair metal thing, never went through.
Speaking of acceptable,
right? You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So went and saw him, and eventually they had a problem with a guitar player that they had, and Andy knew that I played, and he's like, look, man, I'll tell the guys you want to try out for this band. It's like, yeah, I'll try out. David Main gave me 10 songs or so to learn and a week to do it. And fucking, we had a rehearsal. Boom, you're in. So that's kind of where it started for me. So, you know, by that time I was about 17 years old, you know, fresh and playing my first show, you know, with them.
At that time, what was the attitude towards cover bands versus original bands? Because that's a fence.
Yeah.
You know?
Back then, man, like, there was no fucking line. Like, everything was a cover band. And some of the cover bands like that were playing, they had a couple of originals, and even the one I was in, you know, with Andy and David, he had like 3 original songs or something that they would throw in the set. But if you played fucking 4 hours that night,
you were gonna have to have something to throw out there, yeah.
Right.
So
people didn't give a fuck about your original music in Metairie and in that genre of, you know, the cover band thing, you know. They didn't care, man. The chicks just wanted to go see fucking dudes with puffy hair and fucking, you know, sausages stuffed in their spandex, you know.
Sure.
So you know, they could do that on every block. So what I realized was though, we would start going uptown and hanging out up there. And that was where the fucking punk and the hardcore scene was. And
this was new to you?
Well, yeah, I remember walking out there for the first time, man, like going to Jed's. It was on Oak Street or Maple. It was fucking straight right down the street from Jimmy's Music Club.
Yep.
And that's where they would have the punk and hardcore activity weekends and shit. That was basically where we'd all go. So Circle Jerks played, Black Flag, fucking, I got to see all them bands, their Kennedys and shit. And we would go over there and start hanging over there and noticing, whoa, this is a totally different world. Not only musically, but you don't play cover songs out here. You know, no band gets up there and plays another fucking a Black Flag song. You would probably get tomatoes thrown at you. You know, you had to be an original thing, offering something to the scene, being part of the culture, and growing it.
And it's so, I mean, I get that. I get that would stand out to you, but at the same time, seeing that whole scene for the first time, you still picked up on that sifting through. Because it's a new scene, like you said, you're seeing a whole lot of different shit. You're listening to a different style of music. I mean, what was your experience with punk music before you even saw it live? I
had experience with it because through metal, we learned that punk kind of, and hardcore, basically existed, and that's what influenced thrash metal. Okay. So
you had respect for it before you got there.
Exactly. So I'm like, okay, well, let me investigate. And there was a little show, because we had the WTUL, if you remember that shit, the little basement over there by Tulane on the campus. They got a station over there, and back in those days, they had a hardcore night on Friday, and then they would do a metal show on Saturday night. And the 2 brothers that ran it, one became the DA of fucking Jefferson Parish. The other one, we see Steve every now and then, you know. But anyway, one brother would do the hardcore night, and one brother would do the metal night. So we would go fucking down there and barge in, you know, and just bring a keg of beer, fucking Coke, you know, just do whatever. And we just go down to the basement and just watch this motherfucker spin records, get on the radio, fuck around, you know. And we were learning about all these bands, man. We're just pulling records and just looking at shit and fucking, hey, try this, man, you know. And through that experience is really kind of what built Exhorder, or, you know, my first band, real band, more than anything. More than any other experiences that I had, you know, growing up or anything.
Yeah.
You know.
And you're citing that as your sort of intro to hardcore music at its essence, I guess punk and hardcore music at its essence.
Pretty much, yeah.
Preceding live.
Correct. That was before Exhorder ever dreamed of playing a show. Exhorder wasn't even a thing, and I'm going out to hanging out uptown, and every now and then some of the uptown guys would come see our little bullshit fucking cover band in Metairie, you know. Come over there. They come over by by the lake, over by Stan's Hard Rock Cafe back in the day. And, you know, Hatch and used to be with Shell Shock. And his brother, they come out to Metairie and see us, and then we go see them. So we had friends, you know, and they didn't give a fuck that we were, you know, we were doing our thing over here. I think they knew eventually we were going to join them, or at least I was, you know, because it just never, Metairie started feeling, it was just stale, dude. Everybody was playing the same fucking songs. I didn't want to be in a cover band to begin with. I just needed a foot in, you know. I needed a leg into, you know, to get to know people, network, and you know, I mean, the first seedlings of Exhorder came out of that band. You know? Yeah. Me, Andy, and David Main.
And what did you think about, I guess, the non-acceptance of cover music in any form in that scene?
I didn't, I agreed with it because, at the risk of throwing my old man under the bus, it's like, dude, you're gonna make a career playing other. Look, I don't knock people that do it. And there's a lot of people that do it for a living. It's hard fucking work. I tried it once, man. Like a buddy of mine fucking texted me a couple of years back, and he's like, "Hey man, I'm in a jam. I'm putting together a new cover band, dude. Can you help me out? I got everything. Got the horn section. I got everything. I just don't have a guitar player yet. I got 3 shows booked, a fucking wedding." I was like, "Okay, man, just don't tell nobody I fucking did." So, dude, this motherfucker handed me 150 songs, man. I got like fucking 2 weeks, and I'm like, dude, it's no joke. What they do is serious business.
It is.
And I respect them.
It is respectable.
But
honestly.
to me, back then, as a young, angstful asshole that was, I just felt like, why am I going to spend the rest of my years playing other people's music? I need to get to a level where I'm writing my own music, no matter if people like it or not.
Well, it's I don't know how to put it these days. I mean, it's kind of a gray area because I see a lot of bands that's kind of their building blocks or their learning steps. I mean, I think that's natural in the progression of any musician. Is you start emulating the bands that you appreciate and revere, and then from there, some of them move on to original work, and some of them stick with the covers. But my point is that you don't have just cover bands or just original music bands these days. There's a lot of bands that are cover bands that they've been writing their own stuff on the side,
right?
And they're going to start sprinkling it in here and there, and they're going to use cover material as another stepping stone, just like a young teen would use cover material to cut his teeth. Do you know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So it's kind of
so they're doing the same.
It's a rite of passage. It is respectable, and it's a rite of passage.
Exactly. So they're pretty much doing the same thing I did when I was a kid. I started there, but I wanted to ease out, man, and get a couple of originals out there, and then eventually, man, I just couldn't. There was things that I couldn't do that was required for me to do in that genre of the cover world that I just didn't feel right about doing, like wearing too much makeup and the spandex thing, man, like Jesus, So, look, to be honest, man, I'll be straight. We were one of the first bands I was one of the first guys to deviate from the system.
Sure.
And I was kind of frowned upon, and it caused a lot of beefs, but I was like I said, I was an asshole, man, and I'd make fun of guys and for doing it after a while because they were making fun of me for hanging out with the punks. And I'm like, man, fuck off, so it got to be a lifestyle kind of thing, like I'm willing to whip your ass over this shit, the kind of shit now. That's how deep we were into this, man. Like if you talked bad about Exhorder in the 80s, you may not be around today talking about it no more, dude. I'm serious. We were fucking assholes, man.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't do certain things, and still feel like a real man, So I had to get out of that gig, just like, I'm getting out of here. If y'all two want to fucking come on, and they did, and we I felt more at home, doing it.
He's my attorney too.
Your attorney.
We'll work on the double indemnity, non-disclosure, gag order agreement thing later.
Double indemnity.
Yeah, whatever that is. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so you were talking about, I guess, defending your reputation.
Yeah.
At any cost. Was that kind of par for the course for guys that were coming out on the front of extreme music or thrash music at the time?
No, because we were really the only fucking ones, and we were the first fucking band, Exhorder, to come out of the band that we were in before that and deviate from the system. So we were kind of looked at like, and we were told shit like, the chicks ain't never gonna come see that.
And by deviation, what are you talking about? Typifying the era, like hair bands and
yes.
Okay.
We made a clear. Well, at least I did. I made it a clear cut line. Okay, Once I'm out of this, I don't want nothing to do with hairspray, which I don't want to see it no more. And I look, and what I'm trying to tell y'all is there's another world over here. I tried to take people with me, you know. I tried to tell them there's a better way, you know. And I knew a couple of guys that were doing this thing and was just doing it to make money. They had no job, they didn't want a day job.
Just doing what?
Just playing music, you know,
Okay.
playing covers, you know, making enough money to survive. You know, they all living together and shit and doing what they can to be together, you know, and make it. And I'm trying to tell them, listen, I know you hate this shit, you know. Well, come with me. Come with us, you know.
Yeah, right.
Let me, you know, and a lot of it was resistance, man, you know. The chicks will never listen to that. You'll never make a dime playing that kind of music, you know. And then, you know what was funny? A fucking year later, all of the same guys are fucking heavy now. And they're big names today, you know.
Yeah.
You know, and everybody, you know, the times were changing. It was easy to kind of leave that thing. And look, there was a lot of good talent here that was, in my opinion, needed to get out of that sooner than later and become what they are today, you know.
Yeah, I mean, a pioneer is a tough gig in itself.
know,
You know what I'm saying?
know.
Do you? I guess I was going to ask what your attitude was towards those people at that time. Did you feel like they were selling out, or you know, not so much were their feelings of ill will, like nothing like that, but did you feel like they just didn't get it, or did you feel like that's okay, they can do their own thing, but I'm going to do this? Like, what was your attitude towards their view?
Well, it wasn't good. So,
Okay.
So at first it kind of was, you know, but then you know, it kind of got to be, well, you know, you're telling me I'm never going to make a fucking dime playing this shit. You're telling me that, yeah, you know, so it's almost like you're trying to discourage me from, you know, this. So I just, you know, to be honest, I started a feud with a couple of them, you know, and I'm not proud of it today. You know, it was kind of childish and shit, but, you know, at the time, but, well, now, but at the time I felt like I was, you know, defending my fucking honor. Like, hey, man, you know, if you're gonna fucking, you know, I'll call you a fucking poser if you're not gonna fucking, if you're gonna call me, tell me I'm wasting my fucking time, man. Fuck you.
Yeah.
You know. So that got to be beefish, you know, and we had beef. You know, we had a little beef very briefly with a couple of, you know, guys over it and shit. So yeah, my attitude wasn't good toward it, you know. And look, I only speak for myself. I'm not speaking for the rest of the guys, you know.
Yeah, I get it. You sounded like a little bit of a rowdy individual.
I was, man. Like,
Mr.
I'm
Vinnie.
mellow now, shit. I'm, you know.
Yeah.
I'm tired, actually.
Yeah.
So, no, man, it was, you know, but it all cleared itself up, you know. It was just young teenage beef, man, and I made fun of a couple of them, and they fucking, you know, and we fought a little bit over it, and
Sure.
everybody shook hands a year later.
So you attribute it to your age at the time and not, excuse me, the musical path that you were choosing? Or was it a little bit of both?
It was definitely both, man, because I was so in love with hardcore and real metal, dude, and you know, just heavy music in general. I was so in love with it. It was everything. I literally would rather die than to, you know, don't throw me a can of spray net, man. I'd rather die.
Yeah.
I'd take my own fucking life before I do that kind of. So it really was. I was defending that music, that culture, and I was just trying to tell everybody, listen, a year or two from now, you're gonna be fucking doing it anyway. Let's do it. Come on. Let's change. Look, they're doing it uptown. Let's change our fucking turf too, man.
Sure.
Okay, well, the chicks don't like it, but they will, you know.
Right.
How many chicks want to watch dudes fucking look like chicks for how many years is that gonna last?
Right.
Eventually
Yeah,
you're gonna
it's
want a
true.
real fucking man.
It's true. I ask because recently, more than once, it's come up. So I've been a fan of many different genres, one of which was hip hop coming up as a child.
That's cool. I like hip hop.
And what was kind of revealed to me over time was that this is not just a genre of music. Hip hop is composed of elements, turntablism, graffiti, you know, breakdancing, MCing, these things. And I always thought that was unique unto that genre.
Yes.
And it's kind of been revealed to me recently through these interviews that that's just not the case. I interviewed a guy
Really?
that was he's really into funk music. He's got his own funk band, and for him, it is a way of life. He said it's not. He refuses. He was kind of indignant about it. He's like, it's not just a genre of music. It's a mindset. It's a presentation. It's a stage presence. It's the way you dress. It's the way you think and act. And I'm like, the assimilation started bringing me back to what I learned later on in life about hip hop. And I just loved that idea so much.
That the culture was so interwoven into the music.
Whatever it is, because let's face it, like music just as a medium, you can't describe it verbally. Like there's no vernacular that I could convey to you to make you feel like I felt when I heard something.
Exactly.
And it's an emotion. Sacred to me. And for him to describe his love for funk music, and dude lives it. Like he looks like Parliament walking down the street.
Right. He's in it.
120, dude. And I admire that about him. But for him to kind of convey that message to me and make me see, it is comprised of elements. And it doesn't matter what genre you choose. Like the mindset, not just for the performer, there's the presentation, the showmanship and all of those things, but there's a certain mantra that might go with it, a certain way of life that might go with it. You can't be a serious rapper unless you're on the streets so many years. Like they have created levels to different genres. You're not going to sing about country music if you live in the city and have everybody take you seriously. Exactly. You got to earn it.
Exactly.
And I think hardcore music is one of those things because you have to live it. You can't be hardcore. You can't play thrash music unless you've actually lived that. So I don't think it's too far-fetched. And the reason I was asking, was it your age or was it the genre? Is because, and I think you answered appropriately, it's both. A little bit of bravado in your age and also a little bit of necessity in the world of hardcore music, because you can't be hardcore unless you're married to that shit.
That's it.
Or else you're not.
That's it. Those are two genres. And funk's a great example. I mean, it is a niche genre. You know what I mean? It's not for everybody. And if you, it's like if you don't know nothing, right? You show up like, when I walked in Jed's for the first time, first fucking thing I saw when I walked into my first hardcore show ever, walked into Jed's. You remember Doobie? Used to play with Graveyard Rodeo.
Heard him.
Drummer.
Yeah.
Big fucking damn near 7-foot motherfucker, right? Satanic as all hell. Fucking just an animal amongst animals. Okay. First thing I saw.
I'm thinking of Should Do Be a Fat City.
No, this guy. No, this motherfucker was a serious individual at the time. And I never met none of these people, man. I never seen none of them. I'm just there for my first show. The fucking ladies' room door, bow, comes kicking out, and here comes Doobie with a fucking chick over his shoulder. And he just takes her, and it was upstairs. He takes her, and he fucking walks her down the stairs and walks her straight out the fucking door. I was like, I think I'm home, Yeah. Here's the thing, like, if you see that kind of shit for the first time, what I'm saying is like, if you enter into that thing and you go, oh, I have to behave, in order to be here, I have to behave this way, or I have to look this way. I mean, I guess there's a little bit of element to that, but to be honest, man, you just kind of fall into the culture. If you don't meld with the culture, you're probably not going to meld well with the music either, It
wouldn't appeal to you. You wouldn't understand it.
Right.
One begets the other, I think.
Right. And look, I'm a huge funk fan, but I got to be honest, I don't go around with the, looking like Bootsy,
Sure.
But I played with a lot of funky Mardi Gras Indians, and I played in an organ trio with Mike for a long time, and I've been around, that genre, and I love funk music. Matter of fact, you can hear it in Exhorder. You can hear it in my music today. Well, you haven't heard any new stuff yet, but I'm not so much into funk where I gotta I gotta be funk,
Yeah.
But it is part of me, But I get what you're saying though. I do, It's like if you embrace the culture, then I believe you can really embrace what the music really is, man. You know, that you can, I mean, because it can be so cookie cutter, man. You know, okay, I want to write a hardcore song. All right, I need to know 3 chords. And,
right.
You know,
Yeah. I mean,
tune my amp to
that
this,
might work
you know.
for the next commercial, but it's it's not
Right.
going to tickle my brain cell, and I'll be able to sniff them out. I don't know about you, but
You can kind of tell, yeah.
Yeah.
You can tell, you know.
So, so you had experienced, I guess, an anti-lifestyle, I guess, and that appealed to you because certain elements, certain parts of you were trying to spread that elsewhere already.
Big time.
When you were able to break away from the situation you were in, when the dust settled, who was with you and where were you going?
Well, I told Andy, man, I said, listen, bro, I can't do this anymore. I was basically given an ultimatum in that band. I was in a dressing room. We were about to play a show. And I was thrown some garments. Here, wear these tonight. And when I looked at these garments, I was like, I can't go out there like this, you know. And he said, well, you have to or you're out this band. I said, well, then I'll be out this band then.
Wow.
Tonight, motherfucker. So, all right, okay. You don't have to wear that. So that was the last show I played with him. And I told Andy the next day, I said, listen, I'm out of here. Okay, if you want to come with me, come on. But I'm starting another band. I don't know what it's going to be, dude, but it ain't going to be fucking this. So about 2 weeks later, you know, Andy goes, dude, fuck this. I don't want to be in this no more either. So he left and came with me. And
What was the name of this band? Because I don't think you...
It was called Sabotage.
Okay, I don't think you had
There's
said
really nothing out there about it. It was only around for a couple of little years, you know, back then, you know, and not a big to do, but
Yeah.
Andy, I think it was Andy fucking started that band. I don't even remember. But anyway, Andy's like, fuck, I can't do this no more. So he came. And then we started writing Slaughter in the Vatican together. And, you know, we didn't have a singer. It was just me and him, you know. So eventually David Main says, I gotta get out of here too, you know. So he left and came with us. And then we went and found Chris and Kyle. And, you know, about a year after that, maybe a little less, maybe about 6 to 8 months, but we spent a little time together writing and playing and plotting and scheming, you know, and the whole time we were getting heat from the place where we left, you know. So
What do you mean by that? Getting heat from the place where you live?
well, you know, the cover world, you know, all the people in the other cover bands are like, y'all fucking nuts, you know.
Yeah.
So, but we didn't give a fuck, you know. So we went and found Chris Nail, and Kyle Thomas was loitering around a DRI show somewhere in town, and he was 16, and you know, Andy come up to me and he said, I met this guy. He says he can sing. I said, okay, fuck, give him a try, you know.
And again, punk was the kind of...
That was the thing that brought us all together, you know.
gel.
When
Yeah,
me and
that's
Andy,
awesome.
when me and Andy and David left, you know, Metairie for good, so to speak, you know, we just, you know, everything we did was stemmed out of the hardcore scene at that point, because we really couldn't hang out. And I mean, we did hang out in Fat City, but we didn't fit in anymore, man. You know, we were like fish out of water, dude.
And this is circa what year?
Fuck, 80. I started Exhorder in 80, the summer of 85 is when I fucking, the end of that summer, I peeled out of there and I said, man, I'm out. I can't do this no more.
All right.
And then it took till about 86-ish, beginning of 86 to get Chris and Kyle and the other two involved, you know. And then we just kept writing songs from there and going forward, you know. And then I think we played our first show at in the summer of, it was the summer of 86 on Franklin Avenue.
Okay, so that's not a huge span of time.
No.
But I gotta ask though, I mean, how are you eating? Because I mean, the cover situation wasn't a gold mine, but that was how you were feeding yourself. So,
well, not really. I mean, dude, all of us were staying with our fucking parents. You know?
Oh, okay.
We were kids. I was fucking 17 years old when I started Exhorder.
Okay.
You know?
I didn't real. Okay, I thought the band was living together at that point.
No.
The first band.
No.
Sabotage.
No, we were all staying with our own folks. You know, and
Gotcha.
we were just
Gotcha.
kids, man.
So you had the luxury of time to kind of formulate this, what you wanted it to be before you jumped out on stage.
Yeah, exactly. You know, and it was a good amount of time because we couldn't find a singer, man. Like I had a badass drummer. I had Jeff DeWarte at the time, and if Jeff sees this, he'll love this. But he was at the time he was the baddest drummer in town. Okay, and the only dude that I could see pulling off the shit that I was writing and wanted him to do. So he agreed to do it, and then he goes, well, and then he called me like a week or two later, and he goes, Vince, I got to move to fucking L.A. I'm like, fuck, you're fucking killing me. He's like, it's okay though. I got a guy who's even better than me. I was like, fuck, that's impossible. He says, no, and he's got a mohawk and he'll fit in with y'all. So he gave me Chris Nail's number on a fucking little piece of fucking matchbox or some shit. And I called him, and that was that. So that was the nucleus of the band for a good while before we got a singer. We went through a couple of guys coming in and out, and it just wasn't, you know.
Yeah.
But Kyle, you know, he was special, man. You could, even when he was young, you know, you could tell, man, this dude gives a shit, you know. He's a worker, you know. And he made it happen, man. He did, you know. And he took a lot of, at the time, he was very pliable, you know. He could absorb information and turn it into results, you know.
Yeah.
He's still like that, you know.
I don't know at what point during this interview you had mentioned it, but it was something about Southern influence, even on thrash music.
Yeah.
And I don't think it takes a magnifying glass to feel that, to hear that, to see that. I think it emanates even through a medium that you might not expect to find it in, I guess you would say. And I think it's unique to this area, and I find it fascinating. When you were, since punk was kind of, I'm not going to say the sole inspiration for what you ended up doing, but some of the punk acts, did you hear what I'm describing now about thrash music in some of the local punk at that time? Was there Southern influence in punk?
Yes, you could hear it in Graveyard Rodeo, kind of, man. I mean, they weren't really a punk band. They definitely had punk influence, but they were metal in a way, you know. Really fucking. They were the heaviest punk band out there. I can tell you that, or hardcore band, or whatever fucking they were doing. They were doing that. They were doing their own thing. They were doing. It was heavy, and it was very inspirational to me.
Yeah.
You know, because I was like, fuck, now I gotta. It's the same way I heard Metallica in '80, fucking whatever. You know, going wow. You know, I saw Graveyard Rodeo, and I was like, fuck, there's somebody in my hometown doing this. You know? So, you know, a sort of version of it. But you could hear that Southern influence in them. You know, all the bands here. I mean, it's just a different vibe. I've said this a million times in a lot of interviews and magazines and shit. New Orleans, if you grew up here, it's going to touch you. You will be touched by the groove. Okay? You're going to get it. It's like a fever. You're going to learn how to live with it. It's going to hurt at first.
Yeah.
You know, it's a little pain. It's like having a baby. But it's going to touch you. And subconsciously, you are going to infuse that groove and that feel into whatever it is you're doing. I don't give a fuck if you're making gumbo or you're writing fucking Desecrator or fucking any other song from any other artist from fucking New Orleans. New Orleans is in it. And it's the only place on earth like it. And you can't get this in Mississippi. You can't drive fucking 2 hours from here and get it. You can't get it from Lafayette. You got to be here.
Yeah.
So when Pepper does his thing, when Kirk does his thing, when Jimmy does his thing, when Philip does his thing, when I do my thing, when everybody does their thing, it's in them. And I don't think they tried or set out to do it. You know I didn't. I didn't sit down and go, all right, let me make this as Southern as I can because this is where I'm from and I have to be Southern and, you know, and I got to be from New Orleans, so let me make it funky. It just happened, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, especially in a genre like thrash fucking metal. You know, it's hard. I had no idea we were, you know, I mean, a lot of people coin us for creating groove metal, you know. I didn't know that we were fucking doing that. I didn't know at the time. I thought I was as fast and as mean and as heavy as I could be.
Sure.
I had no idea I was grooving anything.
Sure.
You know, it just happened.
Yeah. But you did mention kind of picking that up. It was the originals in the punk scene, and you noticed off top that covers were not permitted
Right.
in that scene.
Well, might not have been permitted, but it was definitely
Well,
not.
I mean, you know,
yeah.
in a manner of speaking, you're
Absolutely.
like, that shit don't fly here, however you want to put it.
Right.
You ain't got to say it, just don't do it.
Right.
Right. The Southern influence did that even occur to you? Because like you're saying, it's not something that people intentionally set out to do. It's just it's a product of your upbringing, not of any intention. But being in, I guess, visiting or being in the punk scene, experiencing local bands, did you pick up on any of that? Could you tell the difference? Like, you know, Black Flag was all over the place. Black Flag wasn't from here. Could you tell Black Flag wasn't from here? Like, did that occur to you?
No, because the lines were kind of blurred when it came to hardcore, you know?
Okay.
It wasn't like when metal, you could tell, like, New York had its own sound. You know, Madball, fucking, you know, those kind of Agnostic Front, they had their own thing. The Bay Area had, you know, Testament, fucking, they was Exodus, fucking, they was their own thing.
Yeah.
I don't know if I so much feel like, you know, Minor Threat, just because they were from up north, is, you know, they sounded like all the other hardcore bands from up north, you know, or punk bands, you know. I don't think it really bled into punk and hardcore as much as it did, you know, separating those lines with metal, you know, like the New York sound, the LA, you know, fucking over the San Francisco sound.
It's a murky water. It's an influence. I wouldn't say it's a separating or divisive line, but it is an influence.
Sure.
You know, it's a different tint to that water.
But the whole time, while San Francisco and New York had their own thing, and even Florida, you know, Tampa had their own, the death metal movement, you know, they had the Florida sound, you know, they got the, you know, people are starting to pick up their regional sounds. The South wasn't really talked about back then.
They still aren't.
Right? Right? I mean, fuck.
Yeah. Nothing's changed.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I remember people from labels. Dude, labels were turning us down in the mid-'80s left and right, okay? Because we were too cliche. We had the word death in our song too much. And go figure, a few years later, there's a band called Death, and every song's name got death in it. And, you know, death, this, death, that. But, you know, again, you know, I didn't hear, you know, we had people at the labels going, you got to get the fuck out of New Orleans, you know? Because nothing happens there. Nothing good comes out of there. Well, let me tell you what happened. I stayed right the fuck where I was. We were the first international metal act in our genre, you know, subgenres like, you know, thrash or really heavy music, to be signed out of this fucking town. And it gave hope, you know, and it I think it gave some hope, and you know, it opened up the doors for everybody else too. You know, to go, hey, fuck, man, Exhorder could do it. Fucking, we could do that. This band could do that. This, you know, and then eventually, man, you know, fucking, these guys took the ball and hauled ass with it. You know. Eventually, it became, to put in your words, acceptable. Yeah, right. It's got, at some level, you got to have acceptance. You know, and back then, the South was not accepted as a legitimate, you know, especially New Orleans and Louisiana. People at Roadrunner were even having a hard time trying to figure out how to market us, you know, because of where we were from, and we were so violent, you know, fighting and, you know, and getting thrown off tours. They didn't know what to do with us, you know. They were like, fuck, these dudes are crazy. They made it sound like we were swamp creatures or something. I mean, I think I remember like one of the first Roadrunner explanations of what the fuck we were. It's like brutal thrash, something from the fucking depths of the swamp of Louisiana. It's like, what? Yeah, they didn't know what to say. I mean, what did you think when you saw that? I was like, man, that's not even close, man. We ain't from the fucking swamp. I don't think it's for labels. Yeah, but I don't think it's for labels to
define who bands are, but they are tasked with it because they have to be the liaison between the band and the public, or the point of purchase anyway.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Right.
I thought it was funny. If you listen to Ozzy talk about Sabbath, their first album pops out with an like an upside down cross. He's like, we weren't Satanists. I don't know where this even came from. We were just poor dudes, you know. But it's lost in translation. But nobody gives a shit as long as it sells and enables them to do more, or to put it out, get it out to the masses. That's the first objective.
Right. Everybody thinks they're Satanists, but really there was,
Nah.
Everybody doesn't realize, if you just turn a cross upside down, who was it? Paul got crucified upside down. It's not a satanic measure to do that, Maybe you should.
Well, listen, that was a loaded statement you gave earlier about what was acceptable, because there's a lot. There's a lot that gets lost behind the veil,
That's true.
And I think maybe you didn't see it as such at that time, but it was kind of an obstacle for you or something that you wanted to kill.
Yeah. I mean, look, the shit we were into, believe me, our parents were not down. I mean, this was the era of Ronald Reagan and, the Cold War and fucking, we were anti-government, anti-fucking God, anti-fucking everything, man.
Yeah.
Anti-mainstream anything. Anti-Johnny Carson, motherfucker. We didn't give a fuck you and your Johnny Carson show.
Even Johnny Carson.
Even Johnny Carson.
Even Ed McMahon?
We hated. No, Ed was cool.
Okay, it's cool.
You could party with Ed.
Okay.
But you could get laid with Johnny. So,
he was suave. He was suave.
He was bad, boy. You could get down. So, we were anti everything, man. So, it was hard to, to kind of, to get our parents to understand that, it's not the fact that we're not Satanists per se. I'm not a Satanist, never was. You can look at slaughter in the Vatican and go, oh, that's obviously satanic. There's some imagery and some reference to it. But it's only used, dude, I mean, we thought Satanism was pretty fucking stupid too.
Yeah.
To be honest, and a lot of the satanic guys and I'm like, dude, either you got a God to serve and that's cool, bro, but over here, man, I don't have anything that, holding me down. I'm young. I don't need to know all of that right now. I don't want to know all of that right now.
It wasn't an essential element of the music.
Right. And our parents, and the older crowds and shit, and, couldn't really see that. It's not that we were heathens, so to speak, and, trying to change the world with Satanism. No, man, we're anti-fucking what you want us to be.
Sure.
We don't want a world that, that you're talking about.
Just a clean break. We want a clean break.
Sure.
180.
Sure.
So walk us through I guess the first few years with Exhorder, or just either you can go through it like with a fine-tooth comb like that, or we can kind of look back on it and basically give to me what you got out of that experience.
Well, the best part about Exhorder was, this bands are a dime a dozen. The thing about Exhorder was, as far as I was concerned, and what I think the rest of the guys were concerned, shortly after, was you didn't join a band just now. You kind of joined a gang, one for all for one. I don't give a fuck, what if you just knifed a motherfucker and you're getting knifed back, I'm coming to defend you. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna, it was a brotherhood. So as we moved forward with that attitude, I think that's what created the music that we created. It was that camaraderie, man. It was like you could get into shit with one another. You could get into shit on the street. We wore each other's fucking underwear. We knew each other so well. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
So that music, the music was secondary, pretty much to our brotherhood, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that we were, we just happened to be able to play instruments, and we wanted to we wanted to make music. So early on, it was more of a, it hasn't been like that probably, since 90, 91, 92.
It hasn't been like that. What do you mean?
Yeah, we lost that along the way.
Okay.
People get older.
Specific to y'all, I got you.
Yeah, specific to Exhorder, Now, to be honest though, man, I mean, I wasn't the only fucking lunatic in the band. I mean, these guys were legitimate fuck ups, man. I mean, we were all fucking nuts.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I got in a fight with my drummer over some bullshit, and year one, and kicked this fucking door down on a trailer. I ended up going to jail, doing community service. I mean, it was just fucking. So that's kind of how we started out of just anger and violence. And dude, we were taking it out on our instruments, dude, and just making a hell of a noise musically about it. So after that little scuffle with my drummer, Chris, him, Kyle, and David left the band, and it was just me and Andy again.
This is when?
This had to be 87.
Okay.
Yeah, had to be around late 87, because we had just did the Slaughter in the Vatican demos. We were right in the middle of doing the fucking Slaughter in the Vatican demo in 87, so it definitely was 87.
Tensions were already high, I would imagine.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of expectations placed on such a thing.
Yeah, and we thought we were changing the fucking the landscape in the world, and so we just forged ahead,
Yeah.
But I got in that scuff with my man, and it kind of freaked Kyle out, and it freaked David out. David left and never, he went on to go be, a river guy, like yourself. And he, just never looked back, So that's when I went and found Jay Sarabalo. Jay had been kind of coming to shows and hanging about, and he could barely play guitar, man. This dude couldn't get through a Black Sabbath song. He couldn't get through Sabbath, Bloody Sabbath without fucking up. But I made a deal with him. I said, bro, I'll give you 6 months. If you can play this shit, and I'll help you. I will come and show you. I'll make you tapes and shit, whatever you need. If you can do this shit, you got the job. And that's when he got rid of his old lady. He fucking quit his job and locked himself in the room. So at the time, it's just me, Andy, and Jay trying to put some semblance of Exhorder back together.
What was the draw? What was the draw? Did you see something in him that he didn't see in himself? Or
I saw in Jay. Jay's a lot like, I saw a lot of me in him. Okay, even if you didn't have the raw talent, that motherfucker was going to do it out of sheer tenacity. He was going to do it just so he could rub your nose in the fucking turd he just shit.
Nice.
That's the kind of motherfucker he was. He's like, oh, you said I got 6 months to do that. Check this out. And dude, the shit that he gave up, I mean, his parents threw him out. I mean, this motherfucker was on the street. I mean, he gave me every fucking thing, when all I could give him was, if you can play it, you're in. If you can't, I got no choice. I got to go somewhere else. He was risking it all.
Yeah. Just
on my word, I was like, I got to put my fucking back behind this motherfucker.
Yeah, that'll get you.
Jay were like this.
Yeah.
So he ended up, so we went and got a drummer, man. We got Sid Muntz. Sid Muntz he was in Crowbar for a hot minute, and he was in a couple of cover bands, I think, early on when we were kids. He played with Kirk in Victorian Blitz. So when Kirk was playing back then, and then he was in Crowbar, I said. And so anyway, we got Sid, and Sid, we had no singer, Chris and Kyle, still gone. So we spent about a whole year trying to put that shit back together and finish the Slaughter in the Vatican demo. So Sid calls me up one day. This is it's a good piece of history that I've never told anybody. So, but it's important, to where we land in this later. He says, listen, man, he says, I talked to Phil. At the time, this was around 88-ish. And it was summer. I remember it was hot as fuck, so it had to be the fucking summer of 88. Or 89. Fuck, I don't know. So he goes, hey, man, I just talked to Phil. He's not happy with his current situation in Texas. Anselmo.
Okay.
And he says he's not happy so much with his current situation. He wants to do something heavier. He's just, and he can't get the guys to get on board. So he says he wants to fucking come try out. So I called him. I said, try out. I was like, you ain't no fucking try out. You Phil, you can
Well
do this.
familiar, right.
You bad, you got the gig. Come home. He's like, no. I want to do it right. I'm going to come down there and fly down. Come in and try out and fucking I'll come back and we'll finish it. I said, okay. So he came down. He was as good as you thought he would be, And I said, I told you wasted your fucking plane ticket, motherfucker. You got the gig. He's like, great. So I put this motherfucker on an airplane, okay? Right after rehearsal. He's flying back to Dallas, and he's going home to quit Pantera. Okay? Now, by this time, I think they were on Power Metal, was the last album they had released, The sound was still, the sound. So anyway, he's in the air. I drive home from the airport, walk into the fucking house, the phone's ringing. I pick up the phone, it's Kyle. I haven't heard from this motherfucker in a year. I haven't seen him, haven't talked to him.
Really?
Nothing. 1 year. He goes, hey man, I heard you had Phil up in the room. I was like, what are you talking about? I haven't talked to you in a year, motherfucker. How'd you know? He's like, fuck all that. He says, I want to come back. I was like, fuck, man. I said, he's in the air right now. He's going home to quit. I said, he's going to be homeless or jobless if I don't fucking. So, dude, I said, let me call you back. I hung up the phone. I called up Jay, and I said, Jay. I told him, this motherfucker's calling me. He's like, bro, it's your call, I was like, man. So I thought about it for a second, and I did the right thing. I said, absolutely, Kyle. Come on home.
Yeah.
We wrote these songs together, man. You're the only motherfucker I can envision singing for this thing. I said, you got it. I just need to stop him from fucking his own shit
right.
up now,
Yeah.
going home and quitting the band, So I said, let me see what I can do. So I fucking, called over there and Phil wasn't, he wasn't upset or anything. He was actually pretty happy. He's like, dude, it's good news. He says, I'm disappointed because I really wanted to fucking, give it a go with you. But, I'm glad he's back, And then he went on and did Cowboys from Hell, and we went on and finished our little fucking thing and did what we had to do and got on Roadrunner and shit. But that's the funny part is that, a lot of people don't know this, but Phil was in Exhorder for about 4 hours.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Nobody fucking knows it.
Yeah.
So, the other thing is this, just as a side note, what if I had said, nah, and hung up the phone on him?
Yeah.
What happens to Exhorder then? What does Exhorder look like with a front man, arguably the best front man in heavy metal history?
Two bands. What happens to two bands, really?
Exactly. What happens to...
It's like an alternate reality all of a sudden.
I mean, that one phone call right there could have changed, fuck Southern metal. It could have changed heavy metal history forever.
It's true.
What would have became of Kyle? What would have became of Phil? What would have became of me?
Yeah.
How long would I have lasted with the Phil Anselmo show? Who knows? Who knows? But anyway, that kind of reset everybody. It made Phil make up his fucking mind ultimately that, hey, I'm going heavy or I'm going elsewhere. And that was his attitude. Pantera's either going to go fucking, up the game, or he was going to go somewhere else. And we just forged ahead. And once Kyle was back, Chris wanted to come back.
Of course.
So,
right.
So then we had the old gang back together, minus David Main, and we forged ahead. And dude, it lasted for a while. We went through a lot of struggles, and we had a lot of fucking problems. And label-wise and just contractual shit. We were in limbo for 3 years, which from label to label, trying to switch over to Roadrunner. That kind of shit can wear on the best, or it really took a lot out of us. So by the time the fucking law came around, dude, we were beat to death, and everybody just kind of started to look at each other and just go, I'm pretty tired of your bullshit. Pretty tired of your bullshit. Pretty tired of your fucking bullshit.
I can't imagine how frustrating it is because it's foreign territory and it's being experienced by people that they didn't want to write inside the lines to begin with, and now they're dealing with nothing but.
Right.
Right.
And that's that's something that, we wanted success. We wanted to we hated the business because of all the ass you had to sniff and all of the shit you had to put up with, you know. But we knew that in order for us to be successful, we had to fucking be able to do business as well as make this music we were making, you know. And it just, man, we just couldn't get the two as a group.
Sure.
We couldn't get the two to meld together, whether it be with my attitude was different then, or his, or that guy's, or just at some point we all just started to non-jive. When we getting older too. I had a baby, you know, in '91 I had a baby, you know. I'm writing for the law, you know, and I got a baby coming. Fuck, you know. Chris is getting married, you know, that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah,
he's talking
that's
about
a different world. It's a different world from what it was founded on anyway, you know.
Sure. So when you hit the 90s, you know, everybody looked at one another and was like, listen, tired of all y'all bullshit. Fuck everybody. And we left and quit. And we got back, fast forward 35 or so years or 30 years later. Here we are in 2019. In between that span and this last run with Exhorder, a lot of getting together and breaking up again, and I love you, man, and fuck you, man, and, you know, a couple of instances, you know, of that. You know, we tried to put it back together a couple times. And this last time table was set pretty good.
Yeah.
We had a good shot, and it was working. And, we ended up in a dispute, you know, as usual, you know, and this time it was the only original guys left was me and Kyle. So the dispute was just basically between me and him. And it was basically over 2 bullet points that, you know, he just couldn't get past and I couldn't get past. And, you know, finally I was like, hey man, fuck it. If you want it this bad, bro, take it, but you're going to fucking get your wallet out this time. You know,
yeah.
There's a lot of times they leave me there sitting with the bill.
You know what's funny though, man, if I may interject?
Sure.
I think if you could create a sentence that expressed brotherhood the best, it was, you already said it, I love you, man, and fuck you, man.
Right.
You know, and it's the sad truth. It's completely dysfunctional, and it's not meant to form, fit, function anything, you know what I'm saying? And it's unfortunate, but
it is of my opinion that he at this particular moment probably hates my fucking guts. He won't say it in the media, but he probably does. Just my opinion.
Yeah.
I could be wrong. But 5 years, 7 years, 8 years from now, you know, who knows?
Yeah, there's an I love you phase, and there's a fuck you phase, and then there's an I love you phase, and there's a fuck you phase.
Exactly.
It's never going to work for either party. And yeah. I think you touched on something that's probably been understated this whole time, is that, you know, as people get older, the band was founded on morals, principles, and ideals and drive of kids.
Right.
And kids will be willing to die for street credit. And,
right.
You know, as you get older, street credit kind of gets trumped by a few other things, like, you know, not being toothless, or being able to
which I've been.
being able to wake up tomorrow. So what I'm getting at is, I think something that's been understated the whole time is that, you know, y'all were maturing in the meantime, in the midst of this all,
right.
And you start having kind of needs or kind of requirements or kind of things that, you know, you think would be nice.
Look, I'll be honest with you, okay? The two, like I said, there was only 1 or 2 bullet points here that needed to happen for us to continue doing business this time.
Yeah.
And the reason I tell you the Phil story about Phil being with Exhorder and for a little while, it was because of that little 3-letter word, simple word, YES.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't have to think about it. I really didn't have to. I didn't have to go. I didn't hang up the phone and go, fuck, man, okay, do I keep Phil? Do I fucking keep Kyle? Phil can sing this a little better, but Kyle's good at this. I didn't fucking mow it over. I said, yes, this is your home.
Yeah.
This is where you belong. And whenever Exhorder would break up in the past, you know, we would just lay it to rest. Nobody owned the trademark or the copyrights or anything to that name. It just sat there. And it would always sit there until most of us or all of us decided to do it again.
Yeah.
And it was always home base for us. If we ever wanted to make something of that thing that we built when we were kids, it was always there for us. And it started when I said yes.
Yeah.
Fast forward to 2019, all he had to do was say yes to a very simple request.
Yeah. Instead,
what happened was my lawyer calls and says they want to enact a vote to vote you out of your own band. I said, well, I figured that, Mr. Attorney, and I already sent a letter of intent to sell my 50% shares of Exhorder to a third-party buyer. So now Kyle has to either meet or beat that offer in order to not have another partner.
Yeah.
Because I pretty much figured I was going to get backdoored again. So anyway, I don't want to make this out to where I'm a saint. Okay?
Yeah, no,
I'm not.
But
okay?
you know what?
But I can tell you this: I said yes.
Yeah.
And to avoid all of this shit, 30 years later, all he had to do was say yes.
Yeah.
But that home ain't there for me no more. I sold it to him. It's gone. It's gone. And I kind of did it in out of spite because I know that this is probably the last time ever. And it probably is, dude. I mean, I'm, going back to that shit and trying to make that fucking turd float, it's like, fuck this, man, Look, I made that baby 35 fucking years ago. I'll make another one. You know what I mean? It'll never be the same as that, but homie I can write a song, you know what I mean? I know people. I can play with people. And contrary to popular fucking belief, people like being in bands with me,
Yeah, but in general, man, I don't even think you need to speak on it because it's kind of like, it's kind of like a lady saying, "I can make another beautiful child."
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Right. No, I'm being 100% honest and genuine because it just goes without saying. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. I don't think it needs to be said, and I feel like you were guided by principles, not business, as was he in the beginning. And over time, maybe the lines start to get blurred because of the needs of adults, and it's unfortunate. I like I said, I think the best sentence that came out of your mouth was, "I love you, but fuck you."
Right.
It's a brothers, it's a brotherhood.
It is.
For love, for better, for worse.
It is.
Moving forward, though.
Sure.
I guess there's some people out there that want to know what you're working on these days.
Yeah, I got a lot going on. Just doesn't look like it. So I've been coming to this motherfucker every week. Working with Dwayne now on some projects. I'm not an employee of OCD, but I'm kind of trying to break into the production game a little, along with playing music. So. Right now we're doing, me and him are co-producing Kirk Winstein's second solo album.
Okay.
Which has been a fucking hell of a fucking ride, man. It's just great to watch him work. I've been knowing him since, we were kids, dude. I mean.
Sure. Fat City days.
Yeah, and we hung out, man. We've done it all together, We've fucking shared band rooms together, fucking drank together, fucked together, we did it all together, But I've never been able to play fucking music with this motherfucker or, really kind of watch him do his thing, and watch him work. So that's been just amazing. So, he called me, he says, look, man, why don't you come in and do like, he calls them sweetie tracks, and it's just like little, little solo-y stuff in between lines that he'll sing, or something,
Okay.
Or I'll do like a little solo on one song or something. So anyway, I wrote a little piece for him on one. He loved it. He called me back. He says, "Vince, if you want to go in there and kind of co-produce this thing, man, I'd love to have you fucking on the gig." So I was like, "Fucking right." So I'm doing a little bit of writing with it, not much at all, man. It's totally him, But me and Dwayne are just kind of coloring this album as to it's basically our interpretation of what we think Kirk Winstein, the solo artist, should sound like on this particular album.
Okay.
It's fucking fantastic though.
the mechanics of it, what's happening first? Because, and I ask that out of my own curiosity, because the way it's described to me, the process with Kirk sometimes is you don't know what's going to happen until it comes out of him. So
right.
how has this creative process been?
Well, it's great because he does it as far as from what he's told me, it's a little different than Crowbar. You know, he'll prepare things and have songs and things written and planned out and shit for some Crowbar stuff. With his solo stuff, he'll come in and drop a couple of riffs on a click, and me and Dwayne will sit there and go, okay, well, so what if we did this and this and that and the other, and but a lot of it is just him coming up with it on the fly here. Like fucking one day I come in, man, he's got a guitar and he's trying to write a new piece for a thing we're working on in there, and I was like, man, I heard something, give me that. And he gives it to me, and fucking gives it back to him, and Dwayne goes over and goes, well, try this note and that note, and we all fucking do it together. So we get moments like that. We get moments where Kirk just plans it out. Then we get moments where we don't know what he's going to do. He comes in here, doesn't know what he's going to sing, just gets out a paper and a pen and just starts writing, man. And I've seen like, it's what it's like, man. It's almost like the way rappers make an album. They'll go, all right, it's time to go to the studio, time to go to work. They don't know what the fuck they're gonna do until they walk in the studio. They go 8 hours a day for fucking 3 months, and just come up with it there. That's kind of what's going on here. There's a couple of preparedness things going on leading into a song, but usually it's just in a form of like 3 or 4 riffs on to a click. And then, Dwayne's doing all the MIDI drums and stuff, man. I'm playing a lot of bass on it, some guitar, a lot of solo stuff, So yeah, man, it's refreshing because I've never done a record that way.
I was going to ask how it makes you feel. How did that creative process struck you?
And I told him before I said yes to the whole thing, I said, listen, man, I got to be honest. You asked me to produce, because the only real credit, accredited producer thing I have to my name is the last Exhorder album, and I was like, dude, I planned every fucking cymbal hit on that motherfucker. I mean, you hear a stick clicking in that motherfucker, it's because I said so. So how in the fuck are we gonna be able to plan all of this? He's like, no, Vince, it ain't gonna be like that. We're gonna do it like this and like that. I'm like, okay, man, show me,
Yeah.
Show me. And look, I can do that kind of shit. I can come in on the fly and pop something out and be creative on the spot. But I'm kind of an I dotter and a T dotter. So what I learned was when you work with Kurt on this particular project, you let it happen, and then you go home and dot the I's and cross the T's. Then I go and critique it and go, okay, maybe we should take away this note or that note. And man, a lot of times it's not a lot for me to critique. A lot of it's just fucking magic, man. Right out.
It's hilarious though, when you started all of this at the beginning of your life, that wasn't possible.
Yeah.
So it's kind of changed the face of creativity or the creative process. It's kind of added a new palette.
Wow.
Yeah,
because you can edit shit now.
Yeah.
And all. It's weird, man. It's like, as an old son of a bitch, I feel like I'm cheating a little, right? I mean, because dude, back in my day, man, if you made a mistake, you backed up and punched it in, and you sat there until that son of a bitch pressing the button said it was good.
Yeah.
And it was like, fuck, man, this is, we'll fix it in editing, or we'll fix it in this, and there's a certain amount of that going on. Okay, I don't care who the fuck you are now. You're editing, motherfuckers. I'm just telling you. You're doing it.
You don't need to provide any excuses, man. I know it feels like you're just saying fuck it and sprinkling Tony Sasheries in the shit instead of being like, I got my own list of herbs.
Right.
It's okay. I mean, everybody does it. I don't think. I think as long as you are satisfied with the end result, not for the sake of anyone but yourself,
right,
then it's gonna be pure.
Yeah,
and
my thing is this: I don't mind doing a little editing here or there, just to maybe do a little time correction if you were a little bit behind the drums or something on something. Yeah, correct it up a little bit. I'm not gonna sit here and fucking spend hours, you know. I mean, as long as you're not cheating to the point of it's affecting the music.
Sure.
You know, I hate to even call it cheating. I mean,
It's unlike what you were used to, so I'm sure
Yeah.
it's kind of funny to even describe, you know.
It is. It's weird to watch them all. You know the knob guys and Dwayne. It's weird, man. Dwayne and them, you know, go to doing that shit. And it's like watching fucking a video game or
You
something.
call them that when you walk in the room. You're like, "What's up with you, knob guys?"
Now, I tell you what, them motherfuckers back there, they know their shit.
They can land spaceships, huh?
Yes, they can. They
That's
know their
awesome.
shit, and they're good producers in there too.
Yeah.
You know, Dwayne in his own right is, you know, just fucking, you know, he's brilliant. I mean, we wrote a song together, me and Dwayne. He handed me an acoustic piece, and I took it home and I said, okay, let me fuck with this a little bit, and came back with a weird thing. I said, dude, I'm sorry, I kind of went off the rails and did this. So he goes, fuck, okay, and you know, and it's going to be on Kirk's record, you know. Matter of fact, it was the first. Kirk said it was the first song he's ever had to write lyrics to that he didn't have to do with musically himself. I was like, wow, so how's that feel? He's like, I don't know. I'm doing it right now.
You know what? That's cool though,
It's
man.
fun,
Because you
man.
honestly, it sounds like you're still continuing on in your own spirit of anti, just kind of rewriting.
I
you
am.
know?
I am, man. I'm trying to do it in the production world too. You know, if I can get a hold of a band, you know, like Modern Mimes, we just did them. Great band, two out of Miami, one from here. It's as the band, you know, it's got to be a project that I believe in.
Sure.
You know, I can't just be. I couldn't open up a studio and just take anybody. You know, it just wouldn't be in my nature to do it. It would be doing a disservice to the people I was taking money from.
Sure.
So this is one thing I don't fuck around with. You know, I have a natural disdain for the music business. You know, and I try and separate my fucking, you know, art, if you want to call it that, from that shit, because the minute that shit gets involved in that shit, it's never
Yeah, those two words don't belong together.
dude.
I mean, they live together, but they don't belong together.
That's it. So yeah, I can't sell out's a good word. I can't sell out to that process, man.